Hey y'all, so this next project is a little bit more advanced. It's called Artistry. That's our name for it. So grab your template for Artistry and go ahead and grab a pair of paper scissors. And I want you to cut out the heart outline. But when you cut out the heart outline, I want you to leave a little bit of border around it. So don't cut on the line, just cut around that line, leaving a little bit of an edge. Okay, so now that those are cut out, we got to get our corkboard set up. Now this is completely optional to add the wood, but it helps to protect your table surface. So what I would do is I would put on the wood, I would add some tacky glue. And I would try to do this in advance of my project, but I would add some tacky glue and then I'll go ahead and add my cork on top of that, and then I would place something heavy like a book on top of it while it dried. You could also do this with some hot glue so that you don't need to wait for it to dry. But I like the flexibility of the tacky glue. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking a piece of the scrap that we just cut and I'm just going to smooth this glue out so that I hopefully get nice even coverage and nice contact with the corkboard. Alright, so now that it's dry, we're going to take the heart that we cut out and we're going to place that on the corkboard. You may want to put it at a slight angle so that you can make sure that the entire heart is there. The next thing that I'm going to do, and you might want to refer to your notes for this, is we're going to actually put a few of the pens, the straight pens, we're going to add a few of those around the perimeter in a few key places. So we definitely want to put them at the top center and the bottom of the heart, and then we'll put a couple around the perimeter in key places. The idea of this is that this is going to help our paper keep its shape. Side edge quilling, as you may have guessed, means that we are actually gluing on the side of the paper. Alright, so once we get to a stage somewhere like this, now we're going to begin our process. So we're going to put that to the side though, because now we need to get our paper ready. So I recommend grabbing 2 strips of your quilling paper and take them apart on both edges. Lay one of your strips down in front of you as flat as possible and grab your needle nose glue bottle. And as a side note, you'll see that I've added one of those pins into the cap just to help keep the glue from drying up, and you are more than welcome to do that with one of your pins. Okay, so as I was saying, go ahead and lay your strip down, and what you're going to try to do is run a bead of glue along the entirety of that strip. Okay, take your time and do it so that it doesn't get too messy. And if you need to, this would be an opportunity for you to wear your gloves so that you don't get glue all over your fingers. But that's completely up to you. Alright, once you finish, you're going to grab the other strip and lay it on top. Just start at the one of the ends, lay that strip on top and get it lined up, and then try to use your fingers on the sides of that strip to kind of guide it down. So we're basically gluing both of these strips of paper together to create a double paper. We want it to be twice as thick. Okay, so that's basically what we're doing. And once this is finished, you might want to let it set for a couple minutes just to dry a little bit, but then we can pretty quickly move into the rest of the project. First thing I want you to do is bend one of the tips of the paper. Okay, this particular bend is going to be where we start at in the top middle or the top center of the heart. Now it doesn't matter, which direction you place the pen. Just know that where the long tail of the paper is, that's what we're going to wrap first, okay? Now I want you to have a couple other pins ready, because what's going to happen is as we wrap around the pins that we've already laid out, we're going to also add pins on the inside to hold it and help it form its shape, okay? So here I'm putting a pin inside. So as we wrap it around the outside, we add a pin on the inside, and those two pins kind of push together to hold it in place. Also, as I wrap, if I notice that there's a place where it doesn't look like it's going to follow the shape, then I add a pin either on the inside or the outside or both. Alright, so I'm wrapping it around, I'm wrapping it around. I'm also trying to hold it down so that it doesn't lift up, because that could also distort the shape. So right now we're basically building the outline of our heart, okay? So once we have our pins in place and we feel good about our outline and we've come to the end, the next thing to do is to join or close up our heart, right? And so in order to join it, what you're going to do is you're basically going to overlap the piece, the short tail that we originally left out. You're going to overlap that with some of the paper. So you're going to trim it, and then once you trim it, Struggle City, y'all. Okay, here we go. So once you trim it, what you'll do is you're going to add a little bit of glue inside of there to join those two pieces together. So remember, when you're joining, just make sure that it's overlapping at least by a ½ inch or so. But add a little glue to the side of that paper, glue it together, right? And now you're going to put a pin on the outside, and that outside pin, is going to help to push it towards the paper that's on the inside. But then you're also going to add a pin on that inside to kind of hold it closed. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense. Okay. Now that it's joined together, we can actually start work on the inside. So if you notice the other pattern, there was like another pattern with a bunch of squirrelies. That's what we're trying to replicate. It doesn't need to look 100% like that, but you can use that as a reference guide, but you can definitely make your own. So we're going to fill in this heart with quilt shapes, right? We're going to use loose coils this time, coils that we're actually going to roll using our fingers as opposed to using the tool. So for our loose coils, we're literally going to start them with our fingers and then kind of just wrap the paper around itself to create a very, very loose, whimsical type of a coil. Pretty simple. And again, you can make these as large or as small as you want to. You can throw in some tight coils here and there, and you can again use the paper as a reference point. Once you feel good about the coil, go ahead and trim it to the desired length. And now it's time for us to attach it. So this is where your reference point could come in handy. You want to try to place it in a comfortable spot within your heart. So here's where the trick comes in. Once you figure out your placement, we then need to glue the heart in place, okay? We don't want to get the glue on the bottom because we don't want our paper to stick to the paper template that we're using, right, to the outline. So we are gluing on the sides for now. So for this first loose coil, we're just going to trim it a little bit more to make sure that it fits in here. But for this first loose coil, take note of where the paper is, right? So it's making contact with the outline in certain places. Wherever it makes contact with the outline that we already created, that's where we need to make sure that we glue it. So you'll just move it out of the way a little bit, add a little bit of glue on the side of the paper. And then just like we joined it, you're going to use additional pins on both sides to kind of hold it in place. Once that isn't glued into position, go ahead and start making your next coil. And then you'll decide where you want to place that. You can continue with the reference, or you can do what we're doing and just kind of freestyle it and, you know, put it in where we think it looks best. So this time you'll note that it is making contact again with the outline, but it's also making contact with the other coil. So just like with the last one, we're going to place some glue wherever it's making contact with the outline, and then we'll secure it with a couple pins to kind of hold it there until it dries a little bit. We got that glued to the outline, right, to the side. So we need to also glue it to the other coil. So add your pins to secure it, and now keep making coils, okay? I want you to just continue making the coils and gluing them in the same fashion until you have filled in this entire heart outline. If an area dries, then you can move those pins and use them again in another area until that area is dry, okay? So I'll see you once you have it all filled in. Alright, so now that our heart is all filled in with our side edge quilling and it's looking fantabulous, we're actually going to remove our heart at this point from the corkboard. So it's dry. Go ahead and remove all of the pins. So now all the pins are removed. We're actually going to remove this white paper from the back. So you can just peel it away. I am trying to hold my coils down, especially the parts that are not attached. There are a couple places where some glue got, and so it's attached to the paper, so I'm being really careful to peel that off. And then if there's any white paper stuck on my quilling design, I'm going to go ahead and just take my fingers and try to peel that off so that it's not noticeable. We are going to be putting these designs onto a frame and having it set as a work of art. So right now this is what it looks like. Super cute. So let me grab my frame. Oh, you know, before I grab my frame, we're going to actually attach this to a piece of cardstock that we insert into the frame. The way the frames are designed though, we have to put the insert in first and then put our design on it while the cardstock is in the frame. So go ahead and cut out your insert and put it into the frame. So here's our frame. The frame has an acrylic cover, but we're going to take that acrylic cover out. You could glue this to the acrylic cover if you want. We just found it easier to glue it to the paper. Alright, so slip the paper into the slot that's at the top. Slip the paper into the slot that's at the top, just like this. You can put the acrylic behind it if you want, just to keep it stored safely in there. But we're going to glue directly to this paper. We're going to glue our heart. We're going to use the same glue method that we did in the last video. This time we're using tacky glue. So we're going to spread some glue out on our paper and then go ahead and dip our heart in that paper so that just the bottom edge gets glued, and then we're going to attach it to our frame. And once we do that, our project will be complete. So we hope you enjoyed this project and you think that it is adorable, and know that you can create almost any outline that you want. I think a butterfly would be really cool. But once you do it, you can fill it in using these loose coils, or a combination of loose and tight coils, or some of the other shapes that are in the guide. Okay, so be creative, have a good time, stay crafty, and let us know what you make.